Hi folks, this is Carol Sane, and Victor Sane's around here somewhere rebuilding his deck. Let's go see what that looks like.
This happens to be a Cub Cadet, 22 horsepower, 50 inch. I don't normally jack it up when I take the deck off like I'm doing now. I just wanted y'all to be able to see underneath here really well. I can't get the camera under there without jacking it up. It's actually safer and easier to do this lower to the ground, but then I wouldn't be able to get these camera angles where you can see what I'm doing with this lady finger. And there, see how easy that was to derail the belt? Then on either side here, you have these clips, which again would be safer and easier if it were closer to the ground. And it's got pressure on it from the gravity trying to pull there we go, trying to pull this down. So the pin is going in here and it's dragging really hard right here because of the weight of this. That's why it's so much easier when the machine is sitting on the ground. And I have this adjusted all the way down. So if it wasn't jacked up, it wouldn't have so much pressure on the pins. Well, it's rusted in there pretty good. So no matter how much preparation we got, plan A is not going to work. So I've got some old wire here. Well, it wiggles now. Just give it a yank. That worked. There's still this bar in the front here that needs to slide out these grooves, which means the deck needs to come forward. So when this is on the ground, it's just a matter of rolling it on these wheels forward and then sliding it out sideways. But since I've got it jacked up, like I said, it makes it easier for filming, but harder to do the actual job. I've got this jack in the center of the deck to keep it from just dropping way down. And all that's really just in the way. It just works better when it's just on the ground. Pull this forward. The whole jack and everything rolled forward with it. Lower the jack. Get the jack out from under there. Out of the way. With it just on the floor's nice and flat. It would just slide right on out. I will have to jiggle it a little bit because it's going to try to catch on these ramps. So let's find out if the little Ryobi pressure washer can make a dent in some of this rust and peeling paint on this deck. On the bottom you can see there's still a bunch of grass and other debris. I'm not even sure the pressure washer will get all this debris off the bottom, much less any of that rust and paint off the top. But let's get this disassembled and see what it can do. There's an awful lot of hubs, wheels, pulleys, bolts, and they're all rusted. Here's a look at the little Ryobi pressure washer I'm using. I think it did a really good job of getting all that debris and grass off the bottom of the deck. Here's what it looks like after one pass over the top of the deck. Now here's how it looks after 3 or 4 passes over the top of the deck. We definitely removed a lot of rust and a lot of peeling paint to reveal more rust under the peeling paint. So I'm glad we got rid of that. Okay, so here's what I've learned about conquering rust so far without spending thousands of dollars on that big laser thing you see in other videos. And I had tried to use this because for the smaller parts that fit in my blast cabinet, this thing works awesome. It's absolutely great. But I only got this far and realized that filling this up over and over again was not going to work. So I thought I could go to one of the ones that has the hose that goes down in the bucket. But then I started looking at how much of the blasting material I was using. And I wasn't using this to recapture because this is nasty. I had this nice newer cleaner tarp, and when I recaptured the stuff from this, it looked like I was getting maybe 60-70% of it back. after filtering and everything. But the real problem is filling this up over and over and over again. And even then, like I said, I could have switched to the one that has the hose that goes down to the bucket and had a 5-gallon bucket worth of stuff and gone a lot further than this before having to refill the bucket. But still, I'd be losing about 20-30% of my, maybe even 40% of my blasting material, because not all of it falls on the tarp. Some of it goes up in the air and the wind picks it up and carries it off. So I got a good old flapper disc, 36 grit, put it on the die grinder, and sure enough, in the same amount of time that I did that one little spot, I did this, all of this area right here, all this area right here, some of this over here, some of this over here. But as you can see, this is not nearly as perfect as this, because this gets way down in the pits and everything. So what I figured out was that I can go over this whole piece with that flapper wheel and then go back over it with this and hit these deep pits like that right there. And I don't use nearly as much material for just going back over and catching these deep pits and stuff. Also, these curved areas, I can get those with the blaster after I've done everything that I can do with the flapper wheel. So this is what I've got so far with the 36 grit flapper wheel on the die grinder. There's quite a bit more to go that I'll have to do with the blaster, because it's down in really deep curves where I can't get to. I got more of these curves and stuff than I thought I was going to be able to get. More of this kind of curve, more of this kind of curve with the flapper wheel than I thought was possible, because it is quite flexible. But these edges right here would just rip the flapper wheel apart, so I'm just going to have to hit them with the blaster. Deep in these corners, deep down in these edges, in here where there's no way I can get the flapper wheel down in there. And all this stuff down here, I'm just going to have to hit with the little blaster. There's another spot back here that I can't get with the flapper wheel. I'm going to have to hit with the blaster. All that right there. That's quite a bit of area. That's a pretty big spot to be hitting with the blaster, but it's got to be done. Even these outside curves right here, the flapper wheel did very well. Just going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. But there's areas right here where this was welded and reinforced where it was damaged before, and to get these leveled out so that the blade would run level, all around here is hard to get into with the flapper wheel, so that'll have to be blasted. And any stickers like this I'll have to tape up to keep from getting ruined. That's a handy thing to have. It shows where the belt goes and how the belt goes. Whoever ends up with this, I want them to have that in case they need it. Stuff like these, I'm going to take emery cloth and get around it and buff it out. Same thing with this here. And I'm going to hit these with the yellow when I yellow everything else out. I don't know why they didn't use stainless steel on these or something, because they're just regular steel. I'll hit this part with the spring with the blaster. So it's almost done now. And this thing is working pretty darn good. I still wish I had the hose that goes down in the 5-gallon bucket so I wouldn't have to fill this up. But it is working. It's doing pretty darn well. And it may not look that great by comparison when you look at this. I'm not sure how well it's showing up on the camera. It's doing a real good job, and when you get to a spot where there still really is rust, you can really notice the difference. Like right here, see how dark that is? And there's a little spot right there, really dark. That's where the rust is still at. I need to hit that. Hit this dark spot right here. That corner looks like it's been hit a little bit, but not enough. And well, right in there. Need to get that a little bit more. And maybe go across this right here where it had that deep scratch. That looked like it was just a scratch through the paint right here, but when I got down in there, you could see there was rust up underneath the edge of the paint on both sides quite a bit, so I'm glad I took all that off. I'm gonna blast all these scratches a little bit more to see just how deep we can get in there and make sure that we don't have another spot like this was right here. That was just a scratch somewhere between the depth of this scratch and that scratch. But you can see that blasting on top of hitting everything with the flapper wheel is doing the trick. I spent a little over an hour with the flapper wheel, and I've got just at an hour with that. So a little over 2 hours so far, and I'll probably spend another 30 minutes to an hour with that, just making absolutely sure I'm done. Because one thing you need to know about blasting outside with something like this, even with long sleeves and everything on and a respirator, you do get covered in your blasting material. I'm using glass, mostly glass for blasting, and it feels just like sand all over you, and it gets in everywhere. Got a little bit more rust I got to get right there too. But yeah, you darn sure want to make sure you're done before you put everything away and get cleaned up, because you don't want to get covered in this stuff. Well, at least I don't want to get covered in this stuff again just for doing a little bit. I'd rather, if I have to come back and redo something a little bit, it'd be a smaller piece that can go in the blast cabinet, because in the blast cabinet you do get some on you, but you don't get covered in it like this thing does. Especially when you're getting down in an area like this, where you're hitting over here or you're hitting over here, you're hitting right in the middle. The stuff is going down in there, and because this is curved, it brings it back up and blows it right on you. I try to stay at an angle and go this way with it as I'm going along and going along. It's going up, and the wind is blowing one way and everything's fine, and then the wind shifts and it comes all in your face. And unfortunately, it looks like I need to hit this a little bit more. It's done real good down in here in the trough, and right in here it needs a little bit more, and down in here it needs more. Did real good down in here where I couldn't get in there's a shadow in there that makes it look kind of dark. Maybe you can see better here, but could not get in there at all with the flapper wheel. So the blaster did all of that by itself. If I do the light on in there, you can see. What do you think, Tigger? So what I did at this stage was I took a brand new brush, just like a Dollar Tree brush, and I scrubbed and scrubbed, dry scrubbed, no water, no mineral spirits, nothing, and blew it all off with the air blower nozzles, and scrubbed it down again, top and bottom, and blew it off again. So I brought this inside because I don't want dew to get on it. And I wanted to show you something after I show you the results of all the sanding and blasting. Right here where I have a sticker I'm taping off, I like to bring, first of all, some paper that's almost the size of the sticker, so that we don't have, even though I'm using blue tape, which is less sticky, we don't have as much of that sticky stuff coming in contact with the sticker. Also, I bring one edge all the way to the corner, and the other edge not. And you see I've done the same thing with this piece of tape. It's from one corner, not quite the other corner, because this piece of tape will go all the way to that corner and then come across. And then this piece of tape will go from corner to corner, whereas these two don't. That way I don't have to cut so many corners very perfectly on my tape. And I do use some scissors so that I can get a more exact cut. And I've got that one more sticker over there. That's what I wanted to say, because I want whoever has this next to have that belt diagram in case they need it. You can see how the sanding and everything turned out. It's just so much better than it was as far as the rust. And to also help prevent the return of the rust, using Rust-Oleum primer, and I will be using yellow rust proofing paint. This is a safety yellow. It's very close to the Cub Cadet yellow, and it has that ingredient that I can't pronounce that inhibits rust. And no, I don't need nearly that much paint for this project. It's just that, you know, this ain't the last project that I'm going to do. And the price per paint isn't that much different than the price per gallon. So I'll put a link to the playlist showing this whole project in the corner, and a link in the other corner to the next video, which will be me putting the primer on this thing. What do you think about that, Shop Cat? He's going to work underneath the Cub Cadet for a little while. When we get you the lube gun there, next it's time to wipe everything down with wax and grease remover. Rust-Oleum primer. So I want to share with you some before and after of the wet sanding after I've got several layers of primer on here. First, I'm using 3M wet dry 400 grit. I've already cut a piece off of this to start out as full-size sheets. Here's the before side, and it's split down the middle. Here's the after, one round of sanding. And you can see it's half wet because I am wet sanding. And there's, of course, puddles of water here and some of the sanded primer in the puddles, so that will have to be rinsed out before it gets a chance to dry. But I want you to see some of this dry area in the already sanded portions, and I want you to see some of these portions where I had been put the primer on and I haven't sanded yet. I don't know how well this shows up on the camera, but there are some really rough spots here and there that definitely need to be smoothed out. This whole area right here is rough. There's some little chips of this and that because this wasn't done indoors. This was done outside behind the barn garage. And bugs and stuff got in it. Now I would never do any car paint like this, but it being a tractor deck should be fine. And I'm going to sand all that out. You can see edges where the edges of the paint came here. There was bare metal and then there was still some paint there. I've got a sticker taped off here. Another rough area, rough area, rough area. You can kind of see where the paint was taken off down to the metal down here. You can kind of see the outline here and there. You can see where there were scratches here that are filled in with primer, but then all the paint over around them is covered in primer too. That needs to come down. What do you think about that, Shop Cat? Smokey, say hello. She is being antisocial today. All right, so this is all not done, and you can see where there was lots of pits from rust in this area right here. We're not going to worry too much about that because all, like from here over to here, is going to be covered all the way up to mostly here. But this area is going to show a lot. This is going to show, there's going to be a hood over this. So this just needs to be smoothed out enough to where paint will stick to it and everything. But this needs to look good, and this stuff needs to look good. So over here where I've been sanding, you'll see some of the problems that come up while sanding primer. And one, you got to be careful around stickers that you've taped off. Luckily there's more than one layer of tape on this sticker, knocked one layer loose. So need to be more careful around that. I'm starting to get paint to show here where the paint wasn't completely stripped off because it wasn't rusty right here, but it was really rusty down here, and all the paint and rust is gone, and there's kind of an edge right here. So I got the primer pretty thick here. I'm trying to get rid of the primer that's on top of the paint so that it has a more even thickness before I put new paint on it. You can see this pit is a little bit deeper than what I had hoped. And if there was a car finish, that would not be good enough. I would need to fill that in with some body filler. Here's an area that's really smooth and looks great. I mean, this I can quit sanding here at all and just leave that alone. Across here you can see where there was a lot of pits here, and they got filled in with the primer. And then I've cut down with the 400 grit enough of the primer to make this look a lot better. It's going to look tremendously better than it would have if I hadn't sanded on it a lot. Another area here that's going to look pretty good. This is going to look pretty good, but if you come down here, you'll see there is a raised spot where something hit from the inside being pushed by the blade and made a long external mark. So I'm going to have to either do what I would with a car, automotive, knock this down to where it's a low spot or flat, and then fill in with some body filler, which I'm not going to be doing all that on a mower deck. So what I'll do is, after I get all of this sufficient, you can see how I'm getting this nice and smooth by sanding, but I've still got some pits here. So when I get done sanding around this, I'll shoot just a little bit of primer on top of that to make sure we don't have bare metal when I'm trying to put paint on there. And the same thing with that divot right there. That was probably a rock that hit from the inside. Over here, got another little high spot and another little high spot, probably rocks being thrown around on the inside of the deck. So that's a couple of things you're going to have to look out for. If you're better at body work than I am, if your eyesight is better than mine, you'll probably be able to pick up on these high spots before you even put primer on and take care of them before then. But I'm not that good at body work, and my eyesight's not that good anymore either. Even wearing the reading glasses, some of these things escape me before I put primer on, and then I notice them after the primer. So mower decks, fine, but car repairs, I would take and knock that in to where it's concave instead of convex, and then use body filler and fix that. And then I would prime all over again, and then do this process again. And then I'd probably go from 3 or 4 or half a dozen spots like this and this and this to having 1 or 2. And then I would do the whole process over again and fix those. And so I'd have to go through this primer stage 2, 3, 4 times in order to get it right. That's one of the reasons why, if you're a really good professional body guy, and if you're as good at body work as I am at building transmissions and engines and stuff like that, you would probably do this in one shot and take 1 hour that takes me anywhere from 5 to 10 hours worth of body work to do. But if you're a DIYer, this is probably where you're going to start. You're probably going to start doing it the way I'm doing here, where you do the best you can, then you have to do another round the best you can, and another round the best you can, and just have to put in 5-10 times as much hours as a professional body guy would do, because that's the stage at where we're at. We're at the amateur DIY stage with this kind of stuff. Or if you're one of those guys that was really lucky and you're just born with the talent, which I wasn't, I've had to develop the skills in just about everything that I do. But I just don't give up. I just keep at it, and I listen to other people that are good at it. I read books, and I get better. So I hope this helps you. And on to the next video, which will appear in the corner, which will be the next stage of development here, or the other thing that will appear in the corner will be the playlist on the zero-turn mower repairs. And as always, links to everything I use in the description below. If you have a problem with the links, please let me know in the comments and I will fix the link. If you can find a better or cheaper or whatever, for whatever reason you think I should change the link, let me know in the comments below to what you think I should change. I will consider it, because I want this to be not only a library of knowledge of how to do things, but where to get the stuff to do it with. The best stuff at the best prices. every time you paint something. Bugs. They seem to be attracted to it. There's a few other things I learned while putting the paint on this. One, it didn't take near as much of that paint as I thought it was going to. All these different curves and angles and everything, I just thought I was going to end up using way more paint. I put about 4 coats on it. Another thing I learned was in the first batch I mixed up, I had thinner, and I learned that I didn't want thinner. I'm glad I started with the bottom. So every coat here on the top was done without any thinner in the paint. This is the paint. I did put hardener in there, and I'm glad because I put so much paint on there it's going to take forever to dry if I didn't put hardener. And this is the cheap $30 gun that I used. I got the hubs from a rebuild kit, and I put the links to everything I use in the description of the video. We're also going to be using this product right here. It does not come in the rebuild kit. It reinforces the deck right here where it holds the hubs, and it's thicker than the deck is. Now these come with their own bolts, which I thought would be longer because of the thickness, but when I checked with the bolts that come with the hubs, they're the same length. And I like the bolts that come with the hubs because they have this serrated edge here, which grips really well, and I want that to help hold. It seems better than the locking washers that come with these bolts. I've already put the Loctite 242 onto the bolts, and I made a big mess on the table here with it too. It's better to have too much than not enough. And I balanced this on the table by magic, or maybe I built a jig. Shh, don't tell anybody. I like to orient these in a way where the grease fitting is accessible. If you're laying on the ground beside the deck, you can reach up under there and get to the grease fitting. I don't like to point it to the inside. I like to get all my bolts started really good before I tighten the first one. That way I don't have trouble starting the last bolt. Put the little Ryobi, which is not nearly as powerful as the Milwaukee, but still, I'm put that sucker on 1, so it's on the lowest setting. That way I'm not over torquing these. So here's what it looks like before I put the blade on. Tigger, you gonna help out? You gonna help out? I think he thinks I'm doing a good job on my own. Now I put some Loctite on here, maybe a little too much. Spilled some on the table. Got a little too much on the nut. Another big mess on the table. But what kind of technique is that? I think we'll call that the possum pose. Now, with these, make sure you've got the star points lined up really well before trying to tighten these. And this is a 24 monkey meters. And the other one I'm using, I don't have my glasses on, 13 maybe? Just, where'd my glasses go? Yeah, 13 monkey meters. There we go. To check that stuff with a torque wrench later. I like to make sure I do at least 2 revolutions with the blade. Make sure it's not hitting anything, because there's usually a reason for changing the hubs. And it's usually not a good reason. Something tragic has happened. And this one seems to be free of everything else. I will repeat this process when I have all the blades on, pointing them towards each other to make sure they don't hit each other. Last but not least, we'll get Shop Cat to inspect everything, make sure it's all right. And I think he's satisfied because he's moving on. All the bolts that hold these on have nylon lock washers. See? So I don't need to use Loctite on them, and as a matter of fact, I can put just a little bit of anti-seize on the threads to make sure that sometime in the future, if everything's all rusty again, these will be easy to get apart, but they will not vibrate apart during operation because nylon lock washers. The part that protrudes goes towards the deck, and there's a washer with these bolts, a flat washer that goes on the top. Bolt washer on top, nylon lock washer from the bottom. Cat, are you climbing that ladder again? He did. Crazy shop cat. He's climbed the ladder into the loft. 14 monkey meters is a little tight on these nuts, which means that they're probably 9/16. Yeah, that's getting kind of stuck on there. See, the 9/16 is just the smidgen larger than the 14 monkey meters. If you ever come across that where you're trying to get a 14 monkey meters on something that's real tight, then grab a 9/16, and that will solve the problem. But you don't want to be using a 9/16 on a 14 monkey meter bolt or nut because you could strip the bolt or nut. It's not likely because they are so close in size, but you want the tightest fitting tool that you can use. Yep, Tigger the shop cat went right up that ladder, all the way up there into the loft. Then he climbs across these beams and he goes way on down. And do you see him up there doing his balancing act? What's going on up there, shop cat? Are the squirrels been getting in? Are you smelling a squirrel? So I made these shelves here and put them up there. They're way higher than I can use for anything practical, but shop cat can use them. Whoa. Yeah, you're impressive. Look how impressive you are. What an acrobat. No squirrels? Disappointed because you didn't find any squirrels? No squirrel lunch? Yeah, he's disappointed. He didn't get to eat any squirrels. All right, we got to get back to work, shop cat. Now, the splatter shield has carriage bolts. I don't know what the official name is for this thing, but I call it the splatter shield because if you run over something you shouldn't, and it tries to splatter all over everywhere, this keeps it from getting to half the area that it would have been. Not tightening that all the way because I need to get this other one started. I like to put the bolts in from the top because that leaves the nice rounded top right there. I see a lot of them sticking up and they have the nuts showing at the top. I think it just looks a little prettier if you've got the top of the bolt head shut. That nice rounded acorn look. Now I didn't put any Loctite on these because these have the same advantage of the others. It's a nylon lock washer. Ain't that right, Shop's Cat? Okay, I cleaned up and repainted the spring. It didn't look like it had any problems that might cause it to need to be replaced. And it did not come with the rebuild kit. To replace the wheels on the Cub Cadet 50-inch deck, first you want to look for the history mark where they were or where you want them to be if you're wanting to move them to a different place. And the bolts are 3/4 and 9/16 or 19 monkey meters and 14 monkey meters. This recessed part goes to the outside. The part that sticks out a little bit goes to the inside. Make sure you get it started a few threads. You don't want to cross thread these things. 9/16 on the nut. This is a nylon lock washer, so it doesn't need any Loctite. And there we go. It's on there. Just repeat the process 4 times. Under, and then go all the way to the left so that I can go left to right for the remainder of the install. So it's under, over, under again, over, over, and then under. Make sure there's no twists or anything in the belt. And then I need something to hold the belt, so I've got this rubber band here, because I'm going to have to install the deck on the machine. Now normally you'd be doing this on the machine, so you just go ahead and hook that up to the drive pulley. But since I've just rebuilt this deck, which is in other videos, and I will put a link to the playlist there for those videos, then I have this situation where I want this belt to be sitting right there. I'm using that rubber band, and it's going to hold it right there while I install the deck and get all my pins straightened out. I need to get that over there. I need to get that off. The pin's going to go through there, and then I'm going to pull that off and connect that to my drive pulley. I found that if you spin the front wheels around, it gives a little more room for the cardboard and for the deck to slip in there. And I like the cardboard so I can slide it without scratching up the wheel so much. What do you think about that Tigger, Shop Cat? Hey, are you going to help? You're just going to wander off as soon as the work starts. The deck on this machine is so big that even with that much cardboard, we've still got 2 wheels over here on the concrete. So I'll just pick up from that end. We've got at least one helper that's not abandoning us. Hey buddy. What? You're no help. You just went and hid under the cardboard. Come here, I'm going to show you what I got so far. Looks like we might be sticking out a little too far on this side. A little too far in on this side. Let's look under and see. When I drop this down, see it's gonna hit along here, so yeah, I need to come this way. And right here, you can see my bar and I've got it held up with a bungee cord. There's not much pressure on this. If you ever have to use bungees with a lot of pressure, I suggest don't do it. Actually, don't do anything I do in my videos. Don't do anything I even talk about in my videos. I don't want you to end up burnt, bruised, and bleeding like me. But when there's very little stress on these, they're not that dangerous. But when there's a lot of stress on them, if one of them gives way, I know a guy that only had one eye because one of these gave way, and the thing caught him right in the freaking eye. I'm gonna pull this back a little bit, and then I'm gonna drop this down with one hand while I watch and see just how close we get. Yeah, I'm gonna have to go all the way down with it. All the way down to bottom notch. And these are ramped up this way, and it's spring loaded this way, so it can just pop out of here and jump up on you. So I would not put fingers in there. I'm gonna drop this because I wanna hook it right there in the front, which means it's got to roll back. Get rid of that, roll back, there we go. So dropped right in place. And now these are getting closer and closer to being lined up. Pull that and hook it like so that this can go right in that notch right there. See how it needs to go, and the whole thing needs to come back so that this hole right here can line up with this. Now, let's see if I can make this look easy. Okay. Oh wait, anti-seize. These are not stainless steel, and I don't know who the next guy is going to be that works on this, but I don't want them to have to struggle like I did before I rebuilt this to get this out of there. So some anti-seize on there, right around there too. I'm gonna go do the other side. It needs to come back a little bit more to line up for this to go in the hole. So what I'm gonna do is go ahead and get that belt, and I'm gonna thread that belt up over here like it should be. Grab it with lady fingers and pull it. Let me get my foot over here. Hopefully I won't knock over the camera. Yeah. Okay. And there we go. I gotta double check and make sure that I didn't somehow knock it off of any of the other pulleys. The reason I've got these on my bungee cord is to make it really hard for me to not notice that I left the bungee cord on whatever I'm working on, and I'll remember to get it off of there. That's why I've had this bungee cord for years and years and never lost it. Let's see here. Yeah, look, I'm derailed right there on the tensioner pulley. It's a good thing I double checked. I like to include these kind of things in my videos because it seems like nothing ever truly goes according to book or according to plan. And in order to be able to work on things, you've got to know how to overcome these problems. Okay, I'm gonna have to get something, pull this back and get the tension off of it. Okay, I've got some twine wrapped around a pry bar. I'm going to use the tire as a fulcrum, pull on this with one hand, and put that on the tensioner with the other hand. Let's see if that works. If not, I'll come up with something else. The deck is not secured yet, and it's moving with me, so I may have to just go ahead and connect this. was pull it across here, get it locked into the wheel. It's tied right here, and I'm holding with my foot while I work with both hands. Whole body weapon. And one more connection here. Let's see that. Oh, that was too easy. Sure that's in there? Yeah, it's in there. Wow, how easy was that? Very easy. I got my rubber band on here. It holds my belt until I'm done. I can cut that off. There we go. Double check all the pulleys again. Everything looks good. Let's get those guards on there. 3 bolts for each of these guards. And I went ahead and put just a little bit of blue Loctite on them. Just not the strongest Loctite. I just want them to stay on there. I don't want them to stay on there forever. I want somebody else to be able to take them off. But I don't want them to come off by themselves. So blue Loctite seems to work good for that. Now, I don't want these over tight, so let's just put this on 2. Went ahead and made these pretty too because they get stepped on a lot. People go in and out of the deck, and that's what they're there for, you know, it's to keep you from stepping on that pulley. Josie at the Josie channel was telling me the other day how he had left one of these guards off on a machine he was working on to make sure everything was working right. And then beyond making sure everything was working right, it got left off for a little bit more, and then one day he was getting off the machine. Something happened, he had to get off the machine. When he went to get back on, the pulley cut through a thick leather boot and cut him bad. Yeah, it was a hospital visit, so we do not leave these off. And he was reminding me of that, and I appreciate him reminding me of that. You know, we all get complacent after a while doing this stuff for 20, 30, 40 years. Start thinking you can get away with stuff you can't get away with. Y'all go check out Josie channel. He does a lot of small engine repair. He's got him a nice big tractor right now. So how do you like that? I got another video shows you how to put this fancy USB port thing here so you can keep your phone charged while you're going around listening to music, mowing. And it tells you the voltage. It's got 12.5 right now. Of course, it does power off the way I've got it hooked up when you turn the key off, so it doesn't run the battery down. I show how that's wired up and everything when I put it in. Another video, this switch right here goes to the headlight, so you can turn the headlight on and off. And of course I moved it out front there so that it wouldn't be hitting the tractor more than it's hitting the grass. And a link to my zero turn repair playlist should pop up too. It's got the usual suspects like changing filters and starters and all that kind of stuff. It's even got big Kubota diesel repairs. So remember, when stuff crops up, be a victor, not a victim. Oh, and for y'all that stayed at the end of the video, thank you so much. You are so awesome. I really appreciate you bumping up the average watch time by staying at the end. Thank you so much. I'll do a walk around after I do all the cleaning and detailing of this tractor before I put it up for sale. I'll do a good walk around, let you see it all done. And I will include cold starts and idling sounds and all that from the Kawasaki V-Twin. Show them your groundwork. Show them what you can do on the ground. Yeah, there you go. Show them your groundwork. Is that how you do it? Fight your way up from the ground. There you go.
Do not attempt anything you see or hear in this video. Serious injury or death may occur. Saneauto and/or Victor Sane cannot guarantee against improper use or unauthorized modifications of this information. Saneauto and/or Victor Sane assumes no liability for property damage or injury incurred as a result of any of the information contained in this video. Use this information at your own risk. Saneauto recommends safe practices when working on vehicles and/or with tools seen or implied in this video. No information contained in this video shall create any express or implied warranty or guarantee of any particular result. Any injury, damage, or loss that may result from improper use of these tools, equipment, or from the information contained in this video is the sole responsibility of the user, not Saneauto or Victor Sane. In layman's terms, please don't do anything you see me do in my videos. You end up unreasonably just like me.